welcome to Go Rio Cruises. My name is Nicole. I'm going to be your captain for the next 30 or so minutes, and you're all going to be my crew. Now, being the crew for Captain Nicole's boat, it's really easy. You mostly have to sit here and have a great time, but I do have a few important rules as we get started. 1, don't stand up and don't try to touch any of the bridges. 2, no smoking or vaping is allowed. 3, please keep personal conversations to a whisper, like you're in a movie theater, so anybody who wants to hear the tour can. I understand not everybody cares about the history, but a lot of people do, and they paid to hear it. So please let me do my thing. And lastly, please watch your personal belongings. We have found over 1,000 cell phones in this river. So please make sure your cell phone does not end up in the water today. We also have life vests, but we've never had to use them. We're going to start our tour today with this bridge we're currently heading under. You might recognize the bridge above me if you have seen the 1997 movie Selena, starring Jennifer Lopez. A very famous scene from the movie was filmed right here. So people from all over the world come to this bridge to honor Selena, the promising young singer from Texas, who was killed by the leader of her own fan club at the age of 23. This building to the left is the La Mansion Hotel, built back in 1853 to be a school for boys called St. Mary's Academy. By 1934, the same building to the left had become the law school for St. Mary's University. St. Mary's still exists, but has since moved away, and the building became a hotel in 1916, just in time for the World's Fair we had here, called Hemisphere. That's the La Mansion Hotel. Hemisphere. Like hemisphere. Alright, coming up to the left, we have a pretty cool optical illusion. If you look all the way up to the left, to the top of the building, above the Bubba Gump shrimp, it will not look like a building at all, but a flat wall that is not attached to anything. Look all the way up to the left. That's pretty cool, right? Totally flat. Like you couldn't possibly fit anything in there. But this was once a hospital. The Dix Hospital opened up in 1930 as the first full-service, fully air-conditioned hospital in all of Texas. But it did close in 2019 with plans to become a hotel. Directly in front of us, the gray building behind the bridge is the Hyatt Regency, which opened up in 1981. Hyatt originally wanted this building in front of us to be much taller, almost twice as tall, over 30 stories tall. But it's not, so what happened? Well, on the other side of here is the Alamo, and we have a rule in San Antonio. No building can cast a shadow onto our beloved Alamo. So they did extensive shadow testing, and they figured out this building here to the left could only be 16 stories tall for casting that shadow. So that is exactly how tall it is today. And you'll never see the photograph of the Alamo with a shadow casted on it by another building. Coming up to the right, that brown building is the Casino Club building. If you heard the word casino and you got really excited, sorry. You will not be able to gamble here today because this building to the right, it's not an active casino, and it never was. It was built back in 1927 to be a place where men's society groups can meet up. Nowadays, the first 2 floors are restaurants, and the top 4 floors are apartments. If you want to live in this apartment building to the right, you would have to wait 5 years. 5-year wait list to live right here in the middle of Restaurant Row. I'm sure you can see why we call it that. We've got a little bit of everything, including seafood, steakhouses, barbecue, and lots of Mexican food. So take a look around and see what looks appetizing. The last building up to the right, behind the Texas flag umbrellas, is most well known for when our architect, Robert H. Hubman, moved his office here in 1941. Why would he do that? His flood prevention he designed had just been installed, so he decided to move his business right here to the right, only a few feet from the water, to show anybody else thinking of moving their business down to the river it would be safe to do so. And that flood prevention was a huge turning point in the history of our Riverwalk, because businesses were too scared to move here without it. But one of the first businesses to move in after the flood prevention install was Casa Rio to the right. Casa Rio has been family owned since 1946. They were the very first place to offer dining on our Riverwalk, and they have become world famous for these colorful umbrellas. A fun fact about the building that Casa Rio is in to the right is that it was built all the way back in 1777 on land that was granted by the King of Spain, because Spain owned Texas in the 1700s. If you start looking up to the left on street level, you're going to see a big red statue up there, the Torch of Friendship. Follow my finger if you can't spot it. The Torch of Friendship was a gift from the government of Mexico to the city of San Antonio in 2002. It is 65 feet tall and weighs over 45 tons, made by an artist called Sebastian. A question I get asked a lot is if this river is natural or if it's man-made. It is actually both. So far, we've only been on the natural part of the river, but now we are entering the man-made extension. This man-made section of the river was added in 1968 for the World's Fair. Like most of the rest of the river, it's only about 3 feet deep here. You heard me correctly. Most of the river is less than 3 feet deep. So, if you find yourself in the water, don't panic. Just stand up and walk out. If you're wondering, about one person ends up in this river every day, 350 to 400 people a year. So if you have not seen anybody in the water yet today, watch out, it could still be one of you. And it's dark on a Friday, woo, it is prime time for a fall in. You're gonna see a tall Marriott hotel in front of us. That Marriott was not always there. There used to be a smaller 3-story tall building called the Fairmont Hotel, built in 1906. The Fairmont was actually moved on tires several city blocks to where it still stands today. Actually, the world record for the tallest building ever moved through a city, right here in San Antonio, the Fairmont. If you start looking up to the right over this wall, you're going to get a brief view of the Tower of the Americas, our observation tower. There it is up to the right. Now, if you can't get a great view, or if you want a photo, don't worry, I got you. We'll have a much better view in just a minute. The Tower of the Americas is the tallest building in San Antonio at 750 feet tall. It's the second tallest observation tower in the United States, second only to the ones in Las Vegas. If you go to the top, you're going to find an observation deck and a restaurant that spins around once an hour, giving you a great view of the entire city while you enjoy your meal. It was the centerpiece, main attraction of that World's Fair in 1968. And as promised, up to the right, high in the sky, is that better view of the Tower of the Americas. Directly in front of us is the newest addition to our Riverwalk. This is the Stargazer statue. She was made by artist Pedro Reyes in 2022, and she is made out of volcanic stone. What could that stargazer be searching for through her star? Faith, love, and whatever your heart most desires. we are going to head through the mall. These shops at River Center Mall opened up in 1988. This is a pretty big mall with over 120 stores and restaurants inside. This mall does have a few unique attractions you're only going to find here. First, we have a special movie theater that plays a movie called The Price of Freedom, which tells the story of the Alamo. We also have a special Legoland inside that has an entire mini Riverwalk made out of Legos. Pretty cool place. Other attractions include a Dave and Buster's and an aquarium. If you're a fan of Christmas and the winter holidays, well, so are we. So come back to visit us during Christmas time because we love to decorate. We hang string lights from every tree, put a wreath on every boat, and put a huge Christmas tree right in the middle of this lagoon. So if you're free in December, come on back and join the festivities.
Happy birthday!
And happy birthday!
Happy birthday!
As we go around the small lagoon, I want to tell you about our different boat designs. You might have noticed not all of our boats look exactly the same. We have different colors. We also have different patterns. First, we have a sun boat celebrating the 300 days of sunshine we get in the city every year. A peace boat with doves for the peace we've had, as many different cultures have come together to form our city. A vision boat showcasing our 5 original Spanish missions, the most famous one being the Alamo. A tricentennial boat for our 300th birthday we just had in 2018. And lastly, today we are riding on a military boat, which honors our military. Over 35,000 people graduate from military academies in this city every year, mainly for the Air Force. So if anybody on board is involved in the military, I would like to thank you at this time for your service. I also want to thank anybody who is a first responder, doctor, nurse, teacher, anybody who is serving your local community. Thank you so much, and thank you for joining me today with your time off. This is a pretty narrow part of the river for 2 boats, so I'm going to focus on getting us through here for a second. Everybody can wave hello to Captain Mo's boat as he goes on by. Hi, Captain Mo. How's it going?
Hi, it's good.
Welcome to the
How
mall.
you doing, Captain?
Oh, we should go shopping later.
Yeah,
it's a nice night. All right, back to the tour. If you're wondering why this city is called San Antonio, what does that mean? Well, it's because all the way back on June 13th, 1691, the first European explorers found this river. And June 13th was a special day for those explorers because that is the day they celebrated the feast of St. Anthony. St. Anthony is otherwise known as San Antonio. And San Antonio is a saint, so they decided to have the feast for the saint here and to name the river and the new settlement after him. So if they had gotten here one day earlier or one day later, this whole city would have a totally different name. So who was San Antonio? Well, he was born in Portugal in the 12th century. Portugal was a country that came to visit us for that World's Fair we had here in 1968. So like many other countries, they decided to bring us a gift to celebrate. Portugal brought us a statue of San Antonio himself. He's going to be up to the right on the side of the river, just past this bridge. All right, here he is coming up to the right, our namesake. This entire city of 1.5 million people is named after him, San Antonio. To the right, a little hard to see at night. We're going to head through Peaks Park. This cute little park is named after Howard Peak, our mayor, in the late 1990s. If you look up to the right past the park over the wall, you should see a bell tower up there. Hard to see at night, but keep looking up to the right through the trees for the bell tower of St. Joseph's Church. That church was built back in 1868 by German immigrants who wanted to be able to have Catholic Mass in their native German language. They still have services there in German to this day. And a fun fact about the city of San Antonio is that for a majority of the 1800s, the most common spoken language here was not English, and it wasn't even Spanish. It was, in fact, German. And if you look up to the right on street level, you might get a better view of that bell tower here. Still dark, but you can make out some of the details. Up to the left, high in the sky, is the Hilton Palacio del Rio Hotel. Again, won't be the best view to start with, but we'll get a much better one in just a minute. I want to tell you about that hotel first. So as you have learned, many of the attractions that draw people to San Antonio were built for that World's Fair in 1968, like the Tower of the Americas, Observation Tower. Before then, you did not really want to come here as a tourist, and not a lot to do, no hotels. But as they started planning the fair, people said they would come. 7 million people came here in 1968. The problem? They forgot about the hotels. Only 9 months before the fair, they realized not nearly enough hotel rooms here for millions of people. Well, luckily, a man named H.B. Zachary had a plan, and he was able to get that Palacio del Rio Hotel done in just 7.5 months. How did he do it? Well, each hotel room was built in its entirety, 8 miles from here. They were built as modular boxes on an assembly line, never done before. And these rooms had everything while they were still miles away. All the plumbing, all the electricity, fully furnished. Those finished hotel room boxes were then brought over here on trucks and stacked one on top of each other like Lego blocks until the hotel was complete. So you're going to get a great view of that Palacio del Rio Hotel up in front of us to the left. You can notice it does look like a bunch of boxes stacked on top of each other. Now you know that is exactly what it is. You're going to be passing that hotel for the next minute or so too if you want to look up to the left and get a good view. Another question I get asked a lot is where this river begins. This river actually starts only about 5 miles north of here. The source, a huge underground lake called the Edward Aquifer. The water from that aquifer flows through our city, eventually into the Guadalupe River and the Gulf of Mexico. Like most other natural bodies of water, we do have fish here. We have catfish, bass, and tilapia, to name a few. You actually are allowed to go fishing on this river, just not here in the downtown area. I really don't think you want to go fishing right here next to this Irish pub anyway, because you'll probably catch a lot more beer cans than catfish in this part of the river. But there is a pretty good fishing spot only a few miles north of here, where the river just begins. Directly in front of us, you'll see a sign, La Villita, meaning little village. This is the place where the original Spanish soldiers who were working on the Alamo put their village in 1722. European immigrants continued to move into this area until 1939. When it became La Villita Historic Arts District. Nowadays, you'll find restaurants and artisan shops that sell good quality souvenirs right here in San Antonio. We're going to head to the Artisan Theater. This theater was completed in 1941, and it follows the natural curve of the river. It's the only theater in the world where the stage and the audience are separated by a natural body of water. You might recognize the stage to the right if you've seen the movie Miss Congeniality. The swimsuit competition scene was filmed right here. You can even see one of our river boats going by exactly where we are right now in the movie. We have many different events here every year.
Oh, yeah, I remember
Cultural
that.
shows, concerts, even the occasional wedding. Coming up to the right, you're gonna see a large statue of a cowboy wrangling in some bulls. This statue is a fan favorite, an exhibit of the Briscoe Western Art Museum. The Briscoe up to the right opened up in 2013. If you go inside of here, you're gonna see a great showcase of Western culture. Like many other buildings on our Riverwalk, this one was once something else that was then repurposed. In 1930, it opened as a public library, and from 1968 to 2001, we actually had a circus museum inside of there. You're gonna notice we have a pretty low bridge ahead of us. So I want to remind everybody, please don't stand up and don't try to touch this bridge. You would be amazed by how many people decide right now is the best time to stand up and ask me a question. I do not recommend it unless you want a free haircut today. Coming up to the right, you'll see a black statue, Father Massenet's table, put here in 1991 to celebrate the anniversary of the first Catholic Mass held here in 1691 by Father Massenet. The island it's on to the right has become our marriage island. Ooh! Over 300 wedding ceremonies happen right here every year. It is said that any couple who gets married here will have good luck in their marriage. Yeah, I'm talking about this little island right here with the one bench and all the ducks. Yeah, pretty romantic spot. Back in the 1800s, not a single bridge went over this river. So how did people get around? They would just cross through the water right here, the old mill crossing. It was so shallow and so easy for the horses and buggies to get across that they just built the road right through the river, and it stayed that way for decades. Teddy Roosevelt and his Rough Riders would come through here all the time in the 1890s. If you look up to the left, you're going to see a very tall building with a big American flag on it. That is the Tower of Life. The Tower of Life is over 400 feet tall. It took 1 year and $3 million to make this building. It was originally called the Smith-Young Building because it was owned by two brothers, the Smith brothers. And those Smith brothers were very superstitious. So they decided to decorate the side of this building with scary gargoyles and ugly, grotesque faces to try and ward off evil spirits and bad business. So if you look to the left, above this staircase, follow that column up about 20 or so feet to see two of the faces underneath the windows. A little hard to see at night, but the easiest to see are right above this staircase. Two of the faces. Help a friend if they can't spot them. What do you think? Pretty ugly, right? Are they ugly enough to ward off evil spirits and bad business? Nope, the building was a total failure. That's because it opened up in 1929, just months before the stock market crashed and the Great Depression started. Those poor Smith brothers were forced to sell the building for only 10% of what they paid for it. And I am not a financial expert, but 10%, yeah, seems like some bad business to me. This building to the right was our library in 1968, International Center since 1998. But much more fun is that underneath to the right is one of our two active marinas that usually has boats, but right now it's actually empty. So if you want to know what a boat parking lot with no water looks like, here we are to the right. I'll give you a second to look as I stop and honk at an intersection. Let any other boats know we're coming on through. This bridge we're about to go under is actually a floodgate that can close if we get a flood warning. And now we are entering the flood channel. So why do we have so much flood prevention on our riverwalk? Well, it's because back in 1921, we had a huge catastrophic flood here. Water went 10 feet above street level. Over 50 people died, and there was millions of dollars in damages. At that point, the city had no idea how to prevent any more flooding. There was even a proposal to fill the river up with concrete just to ensure no more flood deaths. Luckily, that did not have to happen because in 1929, a man named Robert H. Hugman stepped up to be our architect, and he came up with a flood prevention plan, including this very flood channel, which we still use to this day. All works great. We have not had a single new flood death here since 1921. We're behind a dining boat here. They gotta go a little slower because they're eating. If this looks like a pretty good time to you, eating a meal while cruising around on one of our boats, you can just ask any restaurant how to get that set up. Coming up to the right, you're gonna see a building that has been a Drury hotel since 2007. If you're staying in this hotel to the right, you're gonna see the original 1929 chandeliers from when it was the Alamo National Bank. And if you look through this opening, coming up to the left, you should see a cathedral back there. It is the hardest thing to see, but all the way up and back to the left, behind the trees, to the San Fernando Cathedral, the oldest place of worship in Texas, built in 1731. Let's see what time it is. It is 9:31, and every night at 9 and 9:30, they have a free laser light show. So you might not be able to see the cathedral because it's dark to get that light show started. But if you're here another night and you want something free to do, yeah, 9 and 9:30, pretty cool laser show right over there at the San Fernando Cathedral. Directly in front of us is the oldest landmark on our riverwalk. It's that tree. The cypress tree directly in front of us is over 300 years old, older than the city of San Antonio itself. It's also our tallest tree, almost 100 feet tall. We call it the Ben Milam tree. Why? Ben Milam was a hero of the Texas Revolution who, in 1835, was shot by a sniper hiding in the top of that very tree. So we decided to name the tree after him. We are going to head through another floodgate back into the downtown area. If it rains really hard, this floodgate comes straight down, similar to a guillotine, preventing any rainwater from rushing this way. Instead, it will rush through this flood channel we were just in, and the main downtown area will never overflow. Coming up to the right, you're gonna see the Esquire Tavern. That tavern opened up fully stocked the day after Prohibition ended in 1933. Where did they find the alcohol overnight? No one would ever say. They also have the longest bar top in Texas. It's over 100 feet long. And to the left, this building was once the city public service building where you would pay your gas and electric bill. In 1921, it has been another Drury hotel since 1998. And with that, this should be looking familiar as we're pulling right back up to where we started at the Aztec Theater. The Aztec Theater to the right was built back in 1926 to be a place where you could watch silent black and white movies. Nowadays, it's a concert venue. So who knows, maybe we'll see you right back here again if you decide to come see your favorite band perform at the Aztec. I want to thank you all for joining me today. My name has been Captain Nicole, and you've been a great crew.
我现在在 Hyatt Regency 10楼的房间里，正对面就是阿拉蒙。这个 Hyatt Regency 按照昨天的河伦的说法，它原本是要盖31层楼高，可是根据当地的规定，最高的楼层它的阴影不可以超过阿拉蒙。据大家推算的结果， Hyatt Regency 只能盖到16层高。目前我们的房间10楼是倒数第2层，整个住房从 lobby 开始只有11层，外加整个活动区域地下3层，总加起来大概14层楼高，的阴影不会超过阿拉蒙。看看隔壁的 Double Tree 的饭店，它的阴影部分现在是下午2点多，可是阴影呢是往另外那个方向，所以它是合格的。再看看周边的几个比较高的楼层，这个是 Marriott， 阴影也不会触及到它。再过来远远的太空塔，这个是目前阿拉蒙游客不断的阿拉蒙。这边有一个废弃的房子，可是阿拉蒙的这根石柱其实跟它是有距离的。游客不断的阿拉蒙，这个是 San Antonio 的地标，也是一个神圣的历史遗迹。从阿拉蒙这里沿着这个步道，可以直接走到街上来，然后呢，穿过 Hyatt Regency 就可以走到